Hello ladies and gentlemen. Alright, this is going to be my first YouTube playthrough of Vietnam 65. So, this game is about the Vietnam War. You control the United States forces and have to try and win the hearts and minds of the populace, while at the same time fighting off the Vietnamese, Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese army. So I'm going to go ahead and click new game here, and I'm going to play on veteran mode because I've played a couple of times before. Alright. So this is the map that we're going to be fighting on. Yellow flags mark Vietnamese villages that you're going to try and have to win the minds of. This is a river flowing through the territory. It makes it more difficult for vehicles and infantry to cross. There's some farmland here. Farmland you can't land your helicopters on, it's just like jungle. And this is a road which vehicles and infantry move faster on. So, initial tactics. Well, my base is down here, which is where my units will start. There is a large jungle over here with no real tactical value to it. I think I'm going to completely ignore it and let the VC operate from there. Up north there's a road that has 4 villages along it. That should be fairly easy to control and maintain. I'll get a couple of vehicles cruising back and forth and a couple of engineers to maybe sweep for mines, which the Viet Cong sometimes plant. The crucial villages that are going to be sort of they'll be swinging, they'll determine which side wins, will be these 3, I think, possibly this one as well. What's going to happen is I'm going to have a bit of trouble getting my troops from here to here. The river's going to slow me down. So I am going to hop into the game now, and I'm going to show you what you do. Alright, so this is the American base at the start, and then you see all these little villages. When there's a fire and smoke coming out of it, that means that they have new information which they might give you. This information could be about a Vietnamese base in the area, it could be about Vietnamese troops, or maybe a Vietnamese ambush. But they only give you the information if they like you. So with that, I am going to work towards getting my troops up here. So this is the menu of the game. You can deploy reinforcements. This here, this is your currency effectively. It's called political capital, and you get political capital for killing enemies, but you also lose political capital if your units are killed. So we have regular infantry, which are generally all around good at fighting the Vietnamese. We have Green Berets, who are slightly less effective at combat, but they can move much faster, they can go much longer without having to be resupplied, and they're stealthy. They're very, very good for finding the Viet Cong. This is the howitzer. It is completely immobile. You can't move it unless you use a helicopter to transport it. It has to be in one of your bases, and it can fire shells over a fairly long range. Engineer can construct buildings and can also sweep for mines, same as the infantry. Both the Green Beret and the infantry can sweep for mines. While we're in the infantry, actually, the Green Berets can also do something called training, and what they'll do is they will go to one of your bases and they will train up local Vietnamese to be soldiers, and these soldiers basically just bolster the size of your army a bit, give you some more troops to work with. APCs, you can load guys inside these and drive them around. They can also be used to resupply troops. Tank, it's generally all round awesome, blows the shit out of stuff. Huey, these will be the workhorse of your army. They'll ferry troops around, they will resupply your army, they'll get blown out of the sky. This is a Chinook. It's basically a longer range Huey. It can go much farther, it doesn't have to refuel as often. I like the Huey, or I like the Chinook. And this is the Cobra. This is death incarnate. It flies around blowing shit up. That's what it does well. So I am going to begin by looking at what I already have, and that started with 3 Hueys, my engineer, a Green Beret, and 3 infantry, and a howitzer. So each Huey can transport 1 infantry, so I'm going to first of all take an infantry in it, and I'm going to move it over to here. Actually, I'm not going to go completely up yet, and he's going to land here, and then the infantry are going to search that village. Oops, that was a helicopter. The infantry are going to search that village, and the village was uncooperative. They didn't offer us any help. While we're here, we're going to sweep for mines to see if the Vietnamese have laid any mines around it, and it turns out they haven't, which is good. So we'll send a few more helicopters out of troops, and these ones are actually going to go further up, and they're going to try and secure the northern bases, northern villages. There we go. And there we go. Now, as for the howitzer, it can't really do much at the minute, so I'm just going to leave it there. The Green Berets will stay there, and then when the helicopters come back, they'll get picked up. The engineer can't be taken by helicopter, so I'm going to send it up to here. Now, it'll take 4 turns to get there, but it'll move a little bit each turn. So, with that, that is my turnover, and I'm quickly going to turn down the volume because it's quite loud for me here. And this seems like a fatal flaw of the game where you can't actually adjust the volume, so I'm going to be back in a minute. There we go, that's much better. Okay, so all my units have moved, it's the end of the turn, and it now moves over to the Vietnamese. Okay. There doesn't seem to have been much Vietnamese action that turn. I can see if there's any enemies around that have detected any VC contacts or NVA contacts. Basically, the VC are the Viet Cong. They will ambush you, they'll plant mines, they're hit and run troops. The North Vietnamese army, on the other hand, these guys are a much more effective fighting force. They use tanks, they use armoured personnel carriers. They come from the west of the map along, and they're going to be the real challenge. So with that, our Hearts and Minds score is 50, which is okay. 60 is whenever you get the American decisive victory, so at the minute I'm just on an okay victory. But it could tip into the North Vietnamese hands very quickly at the minute, so I can't afford that. Alright, I don't want to go too far with my helicopters because they can only stay in the air for 4 turns, if you look at that little number there. And it's got 3 out of its 4 turns left before I have to refuel it at my base down here. So I will drop off my guys at this place, and he will make his way back to the base and pick up the Green Berets who will join in. Likewise, this guy will go over here and set down, and we're going to leave these guys around this area as a permanent garrison at these 2 places. We shouldn't have much trouble holding them. Our engineer is going to continue driving up the road. Those are rocks, by the way. They just slow down things and prevent helicopters from landing there, so they aren't too bad. Those infantry, they will... That there is an easy place to hold, actually. It's quite clear. I'll go there, actually, yeah. Change of plans. So we'll send the infantry out there. You can't pick up infantry when they're in a village. You can't land in the village, so you have to move troops to the square beside it, or the hex beside it. So a helicopter's going to fly over here, and hopefully we'll get some action soon. Anyway, we don't need the helicopter to stay there, and he needs to refuel, so he'll start heading back. They'll head into the village. No new intel. No new intel. So the villages are cooperating up here, but there's no new intel around, so the Vietnamese haven't arrived in this area yet. So let's go and see what I haven't moved yet. They will do a quick sweep for mines, and they will both stay there. Sweep for mines, and now that all units have moved, I will end my turn. Okay, there's still no... Oh, we've got enemy contacts just north of the village there. Right, okay, here comes the fun part. Let's just save the game here. Alright, let's move our helicopters back to our base. Vietnam War was actually a really fascinating war. Brutal, of course, and lots of crimes committed by both sides, but really fascinating war. Okay. Right. Now, this VC cadre is the basic Viet Cong infantry unit. They're fairly weak compared to your guys. I could probably take them on. In fact, if I click on my guys and hover over them, you can see there's a 71% chance that I will win that fight. Another option that I have is to call in an airstrike, which is limited. Every certain number of turns it'll refuel and you can use it again. The airstrike is free. I could use the airstrike, but I am not going to. I am going to trust that my guys are capable soldiers who can fight off the VC. So onward and outward. And no, we have lost and our guys are now wounded, so one more hit and those soldiers will be destroyed, and it'll cost me 1,000 of my political capital. Alright, so that isn't good. And as you can see, the VC have run off and disappeared, and that's what happens when you attack the VC. They disappear. The North Vietnamese army stay, that's the difference, and you'll have to keep fighting them. So our guys are wounded. We are going to send them this direction here, 2 tiles away from a village. Now, why did I do that? You might be wondering. Well, if there's a second move infantry can do. I'll see if I can show you it here. Yes, I can. Oh my goodness, they just got hit by a minefield. Alright, I did not expect that. Okay, sometime between me sweeping for mines last turn, VC have acted in this area and they've planted another minefield. Now, this means I've now got 2 wounded squads up north, which is pretty bad at this early in the game. So I am going to continue on with my plan to show you it, actually, because it's what I'm going to do. So I moved 2 squares along, and as long as you're 2 squares away from a village, you can click on this thing to set up an ambush. Now, this here will give you a massive bonus to any VC throughout the area that move past, and this includes VC that would come along and set up mines, like what just happened. If I'd have been ambushing, I probably would have got those guys. So, what do I do now? What do I do now? I need to find a way to get these troops back down. My helicopters have just arrived this turn and they're refueling, so there's no sense sending them back up that quick. My engineer's arriving up. He's got a bit of combat ability. I could theoretically use him if I urgently needed to. These guys are going to move away from the village, and next turn they're going to ambush as well, because I don't know where all the VC are acting at the minute. It seems to be very high activity concentrated up north. So, end the turn. Oh, some units haven't ordered. I just have to tell my helicopters to wait the turn. There we go. As you can see, they were given resupplies. Alright. Enemies. These little dots here that I flick on and off, they will tell you where the enemy is spawned from. Throughout the game, it's a randomly generated map each time. There will be a few points in the map that are called the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and that is where the enemies spawn. It could be here, 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 or here, if you just follow the mouse. Now, the Ho Chi Minh Trail is where the VC spawn from. The NVA, North Vietnamese Army, spawned from the west always, but the VC spawned from these little points along the map. There's no way for you to find exactly where they are, but you're able to roughly calculate if you look at where the enemies are appearing from. So the first enemy we encountered was up here, and as the campaign progresses we'll maybe get more dots along the map in different places showing you where the enemies are coming from, and that way you can sort of prepare your defences if you know that the enemies are roughly going to come from this direction or this specific location. Now, we haven't had any NVA contacts, and oh, there might be a second Vietnamese contact here. Let's just have a look. No, there isn't. Alright, so my helicopters are refueled, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the Green Berets, and they're going to try and locate the VC before they do damage. And I'm going to send up 2 empty helicopters to airlift my guys out of there, and we're going to get them healed up and then back in the fight. So time for some medical evacs. And we'll get them taking cover so they don't get killed before the choppers arrive. Those guys need supplies. Helicopters are busy at the minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a Chinook, and this Chinook is going to resupply them. Chinook goes much farther, it's got more fuel. I like the Chinook. Anyway, this video's time is up, so I'm going to create part 2, and I'll get that out as soon as I can. Bye bye.